Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. Guess what? I'm in front of the Toyota Tundra, which is a big deal for me because if you recall, I used to own the 2022 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. And I love that truck for many reasons, but I also had to move on and buy something else, so I traded in to buy the Lexus GX, but I kind of miss owning the Toyota Tundra. So I'm really glad that this week I am driving the Tundra again, but this time this is the TRD off-road package in the longer bed as well. But with a hybrid system just like the one I had in Tundra TRD Pro. I had many interesting experiences with the Tundra and I talked about it quite a bit in my channel, but it's time to come back and refresh my mind and to talk about the Tundra from a different perspective now that I haven't driven it for a few months or so. So let me give you 7 reasons why I still think the Tundra is a great truck and why I'm still in love with it. Let's go. Welcome back. So I have the Toyota Tundra here with the iForce Max, and this one is the TRD off-road package in the beautiful Lunar Rock color. I used to have Lunar Rock in my Tacoma TRD Pro, so I really like this color, and I'm glad that I have this car for this week. But let's take a look at the quality to see if anything has changed from the time I owned my Tundra. As I mentioned earlier, I was the very first person to buy the Tundra TRD Pro in Canada, if not one of the very first in North America. So there was some minor quality issues, and one of them was a bit of a surprise in that the TRD Pro emblem was defective because one of the letters was upside down. I think you remember that when I did a video a while back, but it's not a big deal. Even Toyota can make a mistake, and I'm sure they will never make that mistake again. So once they correct these things and it continues to improve, you know what, it's as good as any other Toyotas. The first reason why I still really like the Tundra is the fact that I think it's still a high quality, well-made truck. And I'll show you that by looking at the gap here. It's about 3.9 millimeter here, 3.9 as well, and 4 millimeter. So that's pretty well standard for most typical Toyota models, about between 3.5 and 4 millimeter. But what I wanted to show you is this plastic piece here, because on my Tundra TRD Pro, this part was sticking out. It was kind of curved upward, and it was therefore maybe not defective, but the design was wrong. And I can see that they made a big change to the design, and now this plastic piece goes underneath this hood, and then the actual curvature of the plastic follows the body line perfectly. So it looks completely finished, and I can see that they've done the Kaizen, which means continuous improvement, to make a corrective action, and now that piece fits in really well. So that's great to see that change. The gap here is 4 millimeter. I suspect it's all about 4. A bit wider there at 4.1 and 4.1 millimeter. So I think more or less the same as the Tundra TRD Pro I had, but I think the actual alignment is a little bit better because when I see the sheet metal, it looks completely perfect. I don't see any defect, and all the creases line up perfectly, and all the doors line up perfectly. So I think if anything, it's even better than what I had on my Tundra TRD Pro. Also, this piece of a black sheet here, which is applied afterward, looks better, although I see a little bit of blemish there, but the overall quality looks good. I still see a bit of a gap here, if you recall. That's one of the complaints that people made. It's not a defect, just to clarify. It's just that this strip comes over here and this strip comes over here, and then there's a bit of a gap between the two, but there's no problem because water is supposed to get in there and just drops out of the bottom. So it's nothing to do with the functionality. It's just kind of an aesthetic issue. And so I'm a little bit surprised Toyota hasn't made the extension here just to fill that gap so it doesn't look like something is wrong. But you know what, that's okay, it's not a big deal. And then the paint job looks really good. I can tell on this Lunar Rock paint that the paint is very consistent. Not a lot of clear coat on this Tundra, but it's a truck, so I don't think they're trying to match the Lexus level of quality. But the orange peel is normal level of orange peel, so that looks all good. And the rest of the body looks good. There was some piece of plastic a little bit loose in my Tundra, but everything is really well done. Nothing seems to be out of place. All the plastic components also look good. And in terms of exterior quality, I still think it's one of the best built trucks out there, and that's why I really still like the Tundra. The second reason why I still really like the Tundra, and I might buy one again, is because this hybrid powertrain is actually one of the best things about the Tundra. It has 487 horsepower and whopping 583 pound-foot of torque, which surpasses many V8 engines out there. And initially I was a little bit skeptical, to be honest, going from V8 to the 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 engine. And as you know, in the early days there was some turbocharger issues with the valve not opening, and that was a bit of a scare for many people who were considering Tundra. But that was just a short duration, and they solved the problem and it never came up again. And so I consider that case to be closed, and something that I know won't come back and won't happen again. So I'm not worried about that. But anyhow, coming back to the engine, combined with the 10-speed automatic, this is a beautiful engine with just the right amount of power and torque to let you tow or to accelerate uphill. And I never thought that the truck was running out of power or torque. And so it is a great combination and a great match for this full-size Tundra. Now, having said all that, it is definitely more complicated engine than many V8 engines out there available in other full-size trucks. But you know what? Engines are complicated these days, regardless of whether it's naturally aspirated or turbocharged engine. And I have faith in Toyota that their hybrid V6 engine will last many years to come, because they go through the same rigorous testing as naturally aspirated engine. It's not like they differentiate the two. So the V8 engine and the 3.4 twin turbo V6 hybrid will go through the exact same testing standard, and that's why I know that if you take care of this truck, it will last 1,000,000 miles. But most importantly, it's just the way the engine performed is something that is very memorable to me. And I remember driving the Tundra TRD Pro on many different types of circumstances, and it never failed to surprise me how much power and torque delivery there is and how comfortable it was. So I really like the engine, and I can't wait to have the same kind of engine in many other Toyota models in the future, because this 3.4 liter V6 is being used in many other Toyota models, but not always the hybrid version of it. So in the future, perhaps we'll have more models with this engine, and I can't wait for that to happen. So I'm inside the Tundra now, and this is the third thing I wanted to point out, which is the functionality and practicality of this truck. I know that it doesn't have as many tricks up its sleeve compared to its competitors, but I like the fact that everything works really well and everything is straightforward. I have a big knob for volume control, simple buttons for HVAC controls, nice large vent for the air conditioning, and also thick rim for the steering, and thankfully still a normal shifter for the gear, and lots of storage space. So the center console is big. This is storage here and storage here. I think on my Tundra I had a little cover here that was flimsy, and looks like they've taken that out now, and maybe because people complained that it was making a rattly noise. So that's one change I noticed. But in general, everything works well. It's functionality wise, practicality wise, the seats are comfortable, reasonably good support for thigh and also for side support, and the rear space is also tremendously big. Maybe not quite as large as some of its competitors again, but for me I found the interior to be very comfortable when I had the 2022 Tundra TRD Pro that I owned for a while. And I'm just reminded again on this Tundra that the interior design is actually really well done from an engineer's perspective, in terms of material selection, in terms of overall quality, and also whether or not the buttons and everything works well. Well, it does, and I really like that about the Tundra, compared to some complicated designs out there these days that are sometimes compromising practicality for the sake of design. But in this case, it's a good balance between design and practicality. So I'm driving the Tundra now, and this one has the iForce Max, so beautiful engine with a huge amount of power and torque. And you know what? It's one of the best things about the Tundra, which brings me to the fourth point about still enjoying and loving this truck, and that is the driving feel and also the comfort when you drive this vehicle. I'm just going up a hill right now, and it's very bumpy here. It's very gravel road, almost like a mini off-road course behind one of some residential area, and you can tell it handles the ride really well. Even though this is not the TRD Pro, this is a TRD off-road package, it still handles bumpy road with ease. In fact, many of the passengers that's being in my Tundra and this Tundra have said that the ride quality and the comfort level are some of the best things about this Tundra. They keep commenting how comfortable it is, how easy it is to be in the vehicle, and the fact that it is quiet. So I know that some reviewers have commented about the ride of the Tundra not being as good as other trucks, but I don't find that's the case. I actually think the ride is good. It's very stable and agile, and it corners even better than I expected, especially compared to the previous generation Tundra. But the best part of this vehicle really is the engine. I definitely would say that if you're going to buy the Tundra, buy the hybrid as opposed to the base 3.4 turbo, because the hybrid gives you so much power and torque, even though you have to pay more money. Also, I will say the transmission shifts well, the braking is good, and the steering has a good road feel. It has just the right amount of weight. It's not too light and too numb. And even compared to the hydraulic power steering of the previous generation Tundra, this one actually has a pretty good feedback. Many of the trucks out there still uses hydraulic power steering, and therefore they maybe have a little bit more feedback. But overall, this electric power steering is as good as it's going to get, because it's very difficult to build in the right level of feedback and feel on the steering. But Toyota seems to have done a good job with this Tundra. So when you drive this around, you'll appreciate the comfort level, the overall refinement, and there is no question in my mind that it is a much improved version compared to its predecessor, even though many of us missed having the V8 engine. So take my word for it, you'll love the Tundra's ride, and you'll love the performance of Tundra, especially if you buy the iForce Max version. The fifth reason why I still like the Tundra, and I kind of miss it, and therefore maybe I'll buy one again in the future, is the fact that there's something very simple about the way Toyota designs and engineers a vehicle. They don't overload or over-design a vehicle with gimmicks. They just make sure everything works really well. So a best example of that is the rear tailgate. As you know, most of its competitors have a very multiple, complex, and yes, a very intriguing tailgate design where it might open and then open a couple more layers so you can step in. Ford just introduced a new F-150 where a part of the door can swing sideways, which I think it is a very novel idea. So many competitors have come up with an interesting design for the tailgate. Tundra is still sticking with a very simple design, with the exception of the fact that I can push the button here to open it. So that's a good design. But I don't even have an integrated step here like you see in GM to be able to climb up. But you know what? There's something straightforward and simple, and that will ensure that the Tundra will remain reliable and trouble-free for many years to come. And honestly, I don't want those complicated tailgate because I just want the truck to work. And that philosophy of keeping things straightforward and simple to use and simple to operate is what keeps Toyota customers loyal, and the fact that they come back over and over again to buy more Toyota cars. So the simplicity of the Tundra, I think, is actually one of its strengths. The sixth reason why I still love the Tundra, and I think it is still one of the best trucks out there, is the fact that it has a really good value for the money. I know this is not cheap anymore. This thing is $75,000 Canadian. But if you compare across the board to other models and other truck manufacturers, they all are in that price range these days. And in terms of what you get for the money, I think Tundra offers a lot of value, especially if you pick the iForce Max hybrid engine, which has a tremendous amount of power and torque, and it is still reasonably priced. So I think overall the value is there. But more importantly, let me bring to the seventh point about the Tundra, which is the fact that I think in the long term, the resale value will still be a really good for the Tundra because of the Toyota name and because of the reputation behind the brand. Even though trucks from other manufacturers are perhaps more popular, I think in the used car market, this Tundra will retain value. In fact, I'm seeing that already because I can see other people selling the 2022 Tundra TRD Pro that I used to own for $115,000 Canadian. I bought it for just over $90,000. So you appreciate it, what, almost $25,000? Is that actually possible? Not quite sure if people will actually pay $115,000 for a Tundra TRD Pro, but people are attempting to sell at that price. So it hasn't depreciated at all, and that really talks about the strength of the brand, and that's why the overall value and the resale value are something that other brands cannot match easily. Now, having said all that, the truck brand and truck market is a very loyal market, and therefore people who used to buy a Ford F-150 will likely still buy Fords, and same for GM and Ram trucks. But in the mixture of all the trucks together, the Tundra still stands out for me as one of the better buys with a great value and great practicality. So that's my conclusion for Tundra, because ultimately the real test of whether or not this is a good truck is whether I want to buy it again. And now that I'm driving this week with this Tundra Limited TRD Off-Road, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I do want to buy it. It's a little bit bigger than what I need, But if I want to buy a truck again, this probably exact configuration is the one I'm going to buy with a Lunar Rock. And this one is the L version, so it's got a longer pickup section here, which is the bed section I mean, and therefore it's more practical. I'm not sure if I need a longer section for this truck because it's already a big truck, but I love the interior and the practicality, and I absolutely love the engine. So let's wait and see. Perhaps I will have a chance to buy one again. So for now, I would appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up and make some comments about whether or not you still like the Tundra. And also let me know if you haven't subscribed yet, because if so, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. Until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.